Hi, my name is Ricardo Jackson, CEO of Campbell Health Solutions. I just wanted to hop in here before the show begins to let you know about our Tuesday late night clinic. Basically, it's every Tuesday from 5 to 9 p.m. by appointment only. We do HIV testing, primary care, wellness checks, STD screening, and treatment. So just give us a call at 561-208-6595 to schedule your appointment.
Hello, welcome to Positively Positive. Oh, and I'm your host, Susan Mintz. What an awesome show. The guests we've had on have been absolutely amazing, and we have so many more yet. Tonight's guest is really going to talk so much about food and hunger and feeding the HIV community in South Florida, amongst other things. But to tell you about the show, if you haven't found out about it through someone, we are the only show of its kind. We only talk about subjects relating to HIV. We highlight people, resources, and organizations, community events, not only here in South Florida, but around the country. Our guests have talked about what they're doing. And this program's important. This show is important because we know that the information you get here can be shared with health departments all over the country, with community action people. Just because we may be situated in Palm Beach County or Miami-Dade, Broward, our information streams all over the country. And you can have this information to bring to your health departments. You have the correct information to start a program up of your own. And you can always reach us. You can always reach Ricardo Jackson at Campbell Health Solutions or myself, Susan Mintz. And my information will be on the screen. So that's what Positively Positive is. We talk about HIV exclusively. My guest tonight I met at an HIV Care Council retreat about maybe 8 months ago. And when I went over to him and I said, would you like to be on the show and what I'd like you to talk, what would you like to talk about? He never hesitated. He gave me his number. When the time came, I forwarded him the calendar. And tonight, he is going to be talking about Poverello, which they have a marvelous slogan. It's called Eat Well, Live Well, and Be Well. And he is the Live Well program manager at Poverello. We're also going to talk about the AIDS memorial quilt, which he was very influential in bringing to fruition. So having been in the HIV field for 4 decades, the man knows what he's talking about, and that's what's going to work. So as many of you know, when my glasses come off, it's time for me to say, Brad Barnes, come on in.
Good evening, Susan. It's a pleasure to be here tonight with you. Thank you.
We did it.
We did it. Absolutely did. It took us a few months, but we figured it out. What is it like? Thank you.
It's wonderful. Well, I want to just start off, and as I had this little gimmick that if I need to interrupt you rather than overlapping you, and if for some reason you have an issue where you get off, you are removed, the audio will keep playing. If not, just get back on the link again. Sometimes, we're all remote, so we have to deal with that. But what I always want to ask my guests first is where you were born or how you got involved in HIV and into the South Florida area.
I kind of fell into it. Let's put it that way. I was living in Washington, D.C. In the early 80s. I worked for
Did
an
you hear me?
organization. Can you hear me?
Recording is, yes, we're back. Okay.
Okay. So I was saying at the time I was living in Washington, D.C. in the early 80s. I worked for an organization called the Close Up Foundation, where we take high school students from around the country to study democracy and government. And so we were able to use Washington, D.C. as a classroom. And at that time, HIV really was blowing up around us with new people being diagnosed with HIV, but we didn't even know what it was at the time. And so, we had Jesse Helms as a speaker, and we went to Whitman Walker Clinic, and we did all the on-sites to teach the young youth about HIV/AIDS. And it started to become overwhelming as we started going into the later part of the 80s. And I got involved with the quilt, the AIDS Memorial Quilt, ACT UP, getting arrested many, many times with ACT UP. And then I reached a point in the late 80s, early 90s, where I kind of was sensing a burnout. And so I ran, of all places, to Provincetown, Massachusetts, thinking I was running away from HIV/AIDS, and I was young at that time. And I discovered you can't run away from HIV/AIDS. Wherever you go, follows you. And I just got deeper and deeper into caring for people with HIV. And I did that in Provincetown. And then I was offered a position here in South Florida as a case manager with an agency here. And that's not my background. My background is political science and government. And like I said, I fell into it. And when I moved here to South Florida, I started up and to find out that where I applied for, and they offered me a job. They were like, "Who are you? And how'd you get here? And no, you don't have a job with us." And then I was fortunate enough to start working for the Food Bank Polo Center. And I've been with them for over 25 years. So it was a mixture
That's
of
wonderful.
food and quilt over the years, and a little bit of ACT UP with in Washington, D.C. and Boston. So I'm here tonight. I'm very honored to be here tonight. And I'm representing myself. So it's after 7 o'clock. So I'm on my own time. I'm not representing or speaking on the behalf of an agency. So anything I say is on my behalf. And I say that with all due with caution with our new administration. So I just want to make sure people understand that I'm representing myself this evening.
Great. So you were starting in Washington, D.C. is where you started off. And what was the organization or agency up there? What were you doing?
So Close Up Foundation is a high school program where they take about 40,000 kids from all over the world to show them democracy and government. And I worked with the blind, deaf, and multiple handicapped students. We mainstreamed our special students into the regular program. So we use DC as a classroom. Our kids from outside the US would stay for 2 weeks, and they would go on to New York, Philadelphia, and Williamsburg, Virginia. And I worked on those programs. And then we had a program in Hawaii and San Francisco as well, where we used the Pac Rim area more on the financial side. And I did that for 16 years.
So you've been a pioneer with HIV almost from the beginning, and you got involved with, you said you got involved with the quilt, the AIDS Memorial Quilt. You started that, I think, or you got involved early on?
Yeah, so the first display in Washington was 1987.
Okay.
And when I was living in Washington, they were calling up for volunteers, so I volunteered. And then I got involved with the Boston chapter right after. And the display behind me is the 1988 display in Washington. So I was involved in all the displays. I ended up working part-time with the AIDS Memorial Quilt when it was located in Atlanta, Georgia. I was the chapter coordinator. So it was all the chapters in the United States. At the time, the international chapters were kind of going more towards independence away from the Names Project Foundation. But I worked with all the chapters across the country, including South Florida, where the last, Compass does a display every single year, and my hat's off to Compass for doing that. The last one that the chapter did was at the Federation, the Jewish Federation.
Right.
I can't remember what year it was, to be honest. I think it was 2001. And we hosted a display there. And then
Yes.
the chapter closed about 10 years ago. The South Florida chapter closed.
Did you make panels for friends yourself?
Yeah, I made about 5 panels. The first panel I made was for a colleague that worked with me in Washington on Close-Up. He died in 1985, and he basically died alone. And our president of Close-Up Foundation used to make sure that he had food in the hospital, and he used to take him back in the old days with cassettes for movies, so he could watch movies in the hospital. So that compassion, early compassion shown from someone from Oklahoma, a straight man from Oklahoma, made sure that this person living with HIV at least died with dignity. And that was really important. And so when he died, I wanted to make sure we remember him.
So you probably had a lot of fatigue mentally and emotionally having friends pass, and early on in the epidemic, in the 80s, especially in the 90s before they had the medications. My husband got ill in 92 and passed in 94. The toll it must have taken on you being in the throes of this whole thing must have been very significant.
Yeah, especially living in Washington, D.C., that's our government. You want government to respond. And during the 80s, they were not responding. So it was frustrating. The good part for me was emotionally had to act up. So the quilt was the compassionate. It's the warmth. Act up allowed me to get rid of some of that anger I had built up in me.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a lot of actions. I'm very proud of those actions. You see demonstrations somewhat today where they've learned lessons from ACT UP. You just don't do demonstrations without a purpose and give like what you would recommend for change and teach as well those demonstrations. And ACT UP did that. At FDA, when we called for new medications or on the stock market or in San Francisco, it was always a call of action and change. And we gave that recommendations. And then with the Boston chapter, I remember they did a lot of research, the ACT UP group. And when the National Institute of Health needed information about data, they were able to supply some of that early day of data information. The Boston chapter was able to do that of ACT UP. So yeah, so the quilt gave me that passion, the caring, and ACT UP was a way to get rid of some of that frustration, call for action. At the same time, working for a nonprofit organization with kids, high school students from all over the world, and I keeping that separate, because it was a nonprofit. We were supposed to be non-political in that sense. So it was a struggle, and also just coming out I was in my 20s at that time, and so it was a different time period. And so moving to Provincetown, I thought I was running away from it. And I can remember in the early 90s, I think it was 92, a good friend of mine, Scott Lago from the AIDS Memorial Quilt, one of my first people that I really connected with the quilt, he worked for the quilt and he passed away. And that hit me really, really hard. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you can't run away from this. You have to get involved. You still need to continue the work. And so in Provincetown, I volunteered for the Provincetown AIDS support group. And we used to drive the van from Provincetown to Boston every day. And I did it like twice a week. Did that for all during the summer months, plus working. So that's a 3-hour drive. So when people say, "Oh, it's difficult to get to my medical appointments," I'm like, well, I can remember in Provincetown, they still do it. People get into a van, drive 3 hours, see their doctor, and come back on a van 3 hours. So if staying engaged is extremely important.
I wanted to run away many times with my issues with Jeff, and when he took ill, I just knew. And then when he passed, I knew that this was going to be my life. No matter what door opened, I would always be involved because it was just too profound. But did I have burnout sometimes? Yes. Did I want to run away sometimes? Yes. But could I hide? No.
No.
Eventually, I always knew this was going to be what I was going to be doing, whatever opportunity presented itself, because it's too powerful in your life. It becomes such a part of your life that you can't run away from it, because if you do, it'll resurface at some point in a way that'll really be detrimental.
Absolutely. And like I tell my staff members, if you're going to work in the HIV field, this is a marathon, not a race. You have to go for the
Right.
long point. You know, if it was a race, you're going to be finished in a year or two. We'll never see you again. So you need to take care of yourself. You need to pace it. You need to separate yourself from work. You need to not allow HIV/AIDS to identify who you are. Still keep your identity, but you still need, you know, it's a marathon.
Now, what do you see as far as there was so much enthusiasm? There was so much in the streets. There was so much with ACT UP. There was so much at that time. Fear generated, people dying, people knew people. My whole neighborhood in Houston was taken away. But do you feel that because maybe the medications today have changed so much and the internet has changed so much that there isn't that groundswell of passion that there was back then? Or do you see a resurgence of people getting involved only differently?
I think what we're fighting for to be normal, HIV to be normal, and that you live a normal life and go back to work. So therefore, it's no longer a hot button issue. But with the new administration and with the new changes, we have to stay focused. We need to everybody to be engaged. I talk about, you know, if you look at the history of HIV, about 99% of the book is written. We have it. We're in the final chapter writing this horrible story. And we need everybody to be connected to write the last chapter of HIV and be committed and be around the table. So if you were part of the early days of HIV, come back in. If you're just joining the group, stay in. We need everyone around the table. If you think that, oh, this doesn't contain me, or I don't know enough about the subject, I'm too new about it, absolutely not. You need to be around the table, because we need new people, old people, everyone to be around this table to write the last chapter. And I thought a year ago it was going to be easier to write that last chapter for us, but with the changes coming, it might take 2 more chapters.
Yeah.
Right? But one thing we've learned with HIV, we don't allow others to tell us what to do. We do it.
Yeah. I think that we're at a very pivotal time, though, because I use the word in almost all my shows with complacency. And I think people have, you know, so many younger and older, my age, younger and older, have that feeling that, well, I can just take a medication, or they have not experienced this profound loss or been involved. So I think complacency because of medications, not only drugs, but like PrEP also, can dull you into a sense that it's no big deal anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you. But on the other side, that's what we're fighting for, to have a normal life. You know, if you're living with HIV, the community, we're fighting for that, to have medications that make you feel normal. You can work 40 hours plus a week. You can get married. You can have children. This is what we're fighting for. And so to have the rug ripped from under us now at this time is so wrong. We don't need to go backwards. We need to go forward. Every tool's in our toolbox. Really, we could end HIV tomorrow if we use all the tools in our box. They're still there. It might be challenging to get some of this PrEP. It might be challenging to be able to get it to a provider to give you PrEP or get onto HIV medicine, but it's still there, and we're still committed. So don't use these challenges as a way of not staying in care, or go on to PrEP.
Yeah, but it is challenging today more. Then it was challenging because there was fear. It was happening so quickly. There was nothing out there, you know, like AZT or something that was even more detrimental. But I think now it's more challenging because of funding, because grants, because of other issues that are happening that are making it seem like let's cut some stuff with HIV. You know, it's really not a big deal. Let's cut this department. Let's get rid of these grants. And a lot of the grants are for HIV. And I think that that's we are fighting a different kind of battle today, those of us who
Exactly.
are involved.
Exactly. And that's where you need to be applauded for the work that you're doing, because more of this needs to be done. So thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Well, I have a platform. It may not be 1 million yet. It may not be 10,000 yet, but this is a legitimate platform with a man, Richardo Jackson, who has his own business, who tests, who can provide resources and counseling. I'm at least involved with people who know what they're doing, where to send you, how to help you apply for this and that. So the guests not only help share information around the country, but Campbell Health and has given me a platform to be able to have people like you on who can talk about what is going on now, because a lot of stuff is not being talked about. This show at least can do that partially. But you also, besides the quilt, did you say the quilt is shut down now, or it's still we have
No,
it?
no, no. So the quilt was in San Francisco, and with the high cost of San Francisco, they moved it to Atlanta, and it was in Atlanta, Georgia, for 19 years.
Okay.
About 4 years ago, no, actually, about 5 years ago, it moved back to San Francisco. Our Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, lobbied and worked with Gilead Foundation to move the quilt back there. So they merged with another organization in San Francisco, the Grove, the AIDS Memorial
Okay.
Grove. And so now the Grove and the Names Project merged together. And so it's the AIDS Memorial. They dropped the Names Project out of it. They have an office at Market and Castro. So we're back in the Castro district. The physical quilt is actually in Oakland. We're very close to the airport in Oakland. And then the Grove itself is where they have the Memorial Grove. And 3 or 4 times a year, the quilt's on display there. But the
Okay.
quilt travels the world. I would say about 60 to 70% of the quilt is somewhere in the world over the course of the year, including Palm Beach. And again, Compass has done an amazing job at making sure that the quilt comes back every year. So hats off to Julie and her staff.
That's what's so amazing is we do live in South Florida, and not only do we have a high incidence of HIV and other STDs down here because of all the demographics and the dense population, but we have such great organizations. Compass has been on the law. I mean, if you've been watching the shows at all, I try to get on not just people. Last year we did more story oriented of people's stories. This year we tried to incorporate more organizations that could shed light on what we're doing here, because the HIV Care Council is here. We just have so much. But don't you think also the flip side is that there's so much money to be made by keeping people from having a cure, a vaccine? There's a lot of people at a higher up level, and with the drug companies, not that I wouldn't love a Gilead to sponsor this show. I would be thrilled if Gilead wanted to be our sponsor. But don't you think that not everybody really wants HIV cured because there's so much money to be made?
Hmm. I don't know, like the early days when I demonstrated against pharma, that was like a crying out. I would cry that out. But working closely with agencies that work closely now with the pharmaceutical companies, I truly see them as partners. Their board of their trustees that make the money. I could see maybe they're arguing in that case, we need to make more money. But honestly, the people that we work with the pharmaceutical companies, truly have a commitment to the clients and to bring an end to HIV. I truly believe that. And it was strongly demonstrated 10 years ago here in Florida when ADAP had a waiting list. And we had clients that were denied medication because the state, I don't want to say mismanaged money. And we had a waiting list here in Florida. And the pharmaceutical companies came forward and was able to cover a lot of our patients, a lot of our clients with meds. So yeah, half of me wants to buy in what you're saying. The other half is I know they have a commitment, at least the ones I work with. I always judge organizations and businesses with the people I work with and try to get away from who's on top because they have a whole different mission.
Right.
So I might totally disagree with an organization or a business on top, but if I have a good relationship with their team and we're getting services for clients, to me that's the most important thing, getting the help to the clients. The
Right.
bottom line. I don't care who I work with as long as we get that help. So yeah.
I think HIV, as well as other, serious, possible life-threatening conditions, you have to keep it very personal. I firmly believe that the men and women working in our laboratories finding these medications or finding solutions to medical problems, I think their hearts are pure. I really think you don't go into laboratory research thinking you're going to be wealthy.
That's
But
right.
I do think that your boards of trustees, a lot of them do just see dollars and cents.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you reminded me of an old demonstration with the ACT UP that we did at NIH in Washington. And it wasn't against NIH. It was that you need more money, you need more staff. And so we were demonstrating on the behalf of NIH. And the employees were hanging out the window cheering us on as we were getting arrested. And that one I didn't plan on getting arrested. My friend planned on getting arrested, and I turned around and these horses are coming up behind me, and I just joined in with the pack of them. We all got arrested together. But
Oh,
that was
wonderful.
but NIH, it was about them getting back to work, giving the money that they need. And I would say with the present administration, we need to go back to NIH and applaud those employees that are still there, and
Yeah.
that we need to encourage them to hang in there. And we need more money back into NIH for doing what they need to do. And I would add CDC into that too, and HRSA. Those three agencies need our support more than ever.
Yes.
So, in my opinion, when I see a government worker that's still doing the job, I thank them. I thank them for being there because
Yeah.
it's rough. It's rough right now.
And they're walking on eggshells. You used to go up to a policeman and say, thank you for your service, or a military guy, thank you for your service. There's times when, yes, I would say, thank you for
Yes,
your commitment and your service. And even though you might think your job is a little iffy, you're staying true to it and you're doing it because you care. I think that there are a lot of really good people out there who care. And I think a lot of the drug companies care. It's
Thank you.
just, it's still going to always be more dollars and cents in the long, it's always still going to focus on dollars and cents. Nobody's in this to lose money. They don't want to be in the red. But when you're talking about this many thousands upon thousands, I think a guest told me there's still 1.2 million people in this country living with HIV. And what happens if all the funds dry up, or they can't get their meds, or the insurance companies aren't there? What do, maybe 100,000 people do?
Yeah. And I think there's other ways for, if you want to say make money. Most people that are HIV, that's the least of their medical conditions. Most people are HIV with diabetes, HIV with cancer. So that's more challenging these days than managing the HIV.
Right.
And so, I think there's plenty of money, but there are other diseases look towards us to still as leaders. If the agencies that work with cancer and diabetes, they always lean on us for leadership, the HIV community, because we've shown them how it's done, how it's worked, how do you lobby, how do you make changes, and so that's a good thing. Money drives everything. Yeah.
Well, sometimes it can't buy certain things. It can't buy your heart. If you're really in it to win it, you're not going to get, your heart won't be, boy. As I said, there's no amount of money that could take me away from having loved my husband, or, again, a sponsor for a show like this would be amazing. But I'm good just talking to you and my guests, because we are making a difference. One story, I like to say, one story at a time. We are helping remove the stigma. We are giving information to people. We are letting people know what they can do. Because many times we have so much here in South Florida, other parts of the country might have very little. So you're providing information how someone can start getting their maybe start something of their own or how to apply for assistance. Now, the other thing is you said you got arrested. How many times have you been arrested for this? Oh, look at that face.
More than 50, less than 100.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, legitimately arrested and put in jail or just handcuffed?
Oh, handcuffs and well, you get bail. I've always made bail. I never stayed overnight. And most of them is misdemeanor and trespassing. But from the White House, one time inside and twice outside of the White House. Yeah.
Aren't you special? I'm going to pin a medal on you when I see you in person. I'm going to put a disruptor pin on you. That's what I have. When someone gave me a disruptor pin, I'm going to give that one to you when I come down and see you. The other thing I wanted to talk about now, though, is Poverello, because I just love this. Eat well, live well, be well. And you are hunger fighters. Tell me, Poverello, that's in Fort Lauderdale, correct?
Yes, but our service area is from Jupiter, Florida to Homestead. So we have about 5,000 clients between the three counties.
Oh, okay. So you are South Florida, literally.
Mm-hmm. We're based out of Fort Lauderdale.
You're based out of Fort Lauderdale.
Yes.
Your main headquarters. I saw Wilton Manors on.
Wilton Manors, Fort Lauderdale. Yes.
That's wonderful. Yeah, John Ramos was on previously, and his interview will be airing in June at some point. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, he's got a whole different set of issues we talked about. That's what's wonderful. It's a small world. Somebody said it's a small world, but I wouldn't want to paint it. The other thing is, so tell me then, how did you end up with Poverello, and what are the services that Poverello provides? And you said it's from Jupiter all the way to Homestead?
Yes. So our agency started out of HIV AIDS. And we're part of a group called Food is Medicine Coalition. There's about 50 different agencies across the country. God's Love, We Deliver is our lead agency out of New York City. So we really, in food, there's two outlets. There's hunger, that's your food banks for the most part. And then food is medicine. So our food goes along with people living with cancer or diabetes or heart disease. So it's to prevent you from.
So it's a multifaceted.
One of our, your food is medicine is a nice tagline and it sounds really great, but there's nothing sexy about food is medicine. And so our CEO went back and he goes, you know what, we're really about eating well, living well, and being well. And so we're divided that way. So we have our food pantry that work with chronically illness with food. We have medically tailored meals and groceries with our nutritionist. So we have a nutritionist on staff that works with clients. We also have medical. We have 3 doctors on staff for PrEP and HIV care. We have non-medical and medical case managers. We have peers that work directly with clients with HIV. So we also have cancer, diabetes, heart disease, kidney failure, other chronic illnesses receive food as well. Not as many. We're about 95% of our clients are HIV positive. During COVID, we decided, well, actually like 4 years before COVID, we started what we call pop-up food pantries. So all we need is 6 parking spaces. We drive up, we can bring our whole food pantry on the road, and we disperse food that way. And all that training was really in line with COVID. So during COVID, we were able to go across all 3 counties, and we dispersed thousands and thousands of food each day across the 3 counties. So since COVID is not ended, but it's changed so much, we're able to go back to our original core, and that's food is medicine, and working that way. So we have food for chronic illnesses and also HIV positive.
Now, the other thing is, so where are the different facilities? How many then, is it all go by Poverello in the different counties and the different areas?
Exactly. So in Palm Beach, we have a contract with the Ryan White Part A office. So we work with all the agencies in Palm Beach. So they refer the clients to us. We disperse their food or voucher. They have a voucher program We just introduced the food bank program to Palm Beach, and so we use DoorDash. So we have 12 different locations that we use in Palm Beach, and then they deliver by DoorDash the food. So the client goes into the portal. It's 100% client choice. The client's choosing the food that they would like. They get anywhere between 35 and 45 meals for the week on stacks, whatever they want to choose. And then we deliver by DoorDash straight to their home.
Wow, that's amazing. And who donates a lot of the food? How do you get your supplies?
So the
Your
food
food.
that we use through the Ryan White program is purchase food. The chronic illnesses, we have a couple different agencies or different foundations that donate on a regular basis to us to fund the chronic illness program. But the HIV is primarily the Ryan White Part A in Broward and Palm Beach, as well as the two Part A offices run that program for us. Down in Miami-Dade, we work with 3 different agencies there. Just disperse foods in Miami, and that's privately funded through foundations.
Do you have any private companies, private like Walmart, any other big companies that do they offer their food that, or they donate large amounts, or it's all purchase?
It's purchase. Our food is purchased. However, Publix does donate to us. We receive probably close to $10,000 worth of food each week from Publix. It's breads and sweets. It's all that wraparound food, as I call it. It's not food, it's medicine, but our clients love the sweets and breads. And so it's about $10,000 a week from Publix in its donation, in-kind donation from Publix.
I knew that they donated because I've spoken to somebody who was a manager there, and they said that wasn't just Poverello, but they said they donate to local HIV/AIDS agencies. So there's a wonderful connection.
Thinking when you're asking me about agencies and donations, one that comes to mind that I'm really proud that we partner with is Broadway Cares out of New York. So all the Broadway shows in New York and all the traveling shows. Like I was just in Palm Beach at the theater in Kravitz 2 weeks ago when Les Mis was playing there. And it was Broadway Cares night. And so they asked the audience to donate money, and the money goes to agencies like ours for helping people with chronic illnesses, including HIV. So Broadway Cares has been doing this for 30-some years, and they support local agencies across the country.
The other thing is, though, you said that about 95% of your clients are HIV positive.
Yes.
And how then, if people are not if they are HIV positive, how do they apply? Through the Ryan White program, or how does that work?
For the ones that are not?
No, the ones that are, then the ones who are not, but now.
So in Palm Beach County, they would go through their case manager. In Broward, they come directly to us. So a little lesson on Ryan White, which I'm really proud with, because that comes from an act up kind of moment, is that the federal government recognized the local needs, and they let the local government determine what are those needs and those service categories to be funded and be responsible for those funds. So like the Care Council in Palm Beach, the Ryan White Planning Council in Broward and Miami, the local areas determine what is the most important service categories to fund and how much to fund and how do we manage it. So not we as our Palo Center, but each of they call it EMAs across the country, determine if food bank is important enough, and then they fund it. So we have agencies that I said, Food is Medicine Coalition, that we're part of, and that's the network. So each one looks a little bit different, but I would say, if you're HIV positive and have a need for any services, contact your local health department across the country, and they're the best ones to get you linked to care. And I think as things get really scary, don't allow the environment that we live in today to discourage you from staying in care or getting in care. There's places, this is not going away. The services, it might look different, but there'll still be people out there like our host, Susan, that's committed to the community, make sure that we get where we need to get to.
And though, if people are wanting to look this up, so they can check out Poverello, or they can, you have your own personal email we got from before, so we had that up on the screen. We wanted to make sure that people could contact you. But also, is Poverello is the name for all of it, even in Jupiter, Miami, or is there a different name?
It's the same name. So it's POVERELLO.org. That's our
All right,
website.
that's great. And then your information we have up
Yeah, so
here
if you
too,
email
Barnes.
me, you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to email me, and I'll get you hooked up. My personal email, that's my personal one. I'm representing myself tonight, so I just don't want any confusion. That's the reason my personal one's there. But I'm happy to refer you. If you have questions about the quilt, I'm happy to forward it on to the appropriate staff member. If you have questions about panels, how do I find my panel, I'm happy to help you with that.
And representing yourself, you are doing it very well, Brad Barnes.
Yeah.
You are representing Brad Barnes very well.
Yeah,
and then so if somebody is let's say with diabetes, or they had cancer or another underlying condition, how do you treat that whole situation that's what happened with COVID. I don't think it was COVID necessarily that killed a lot of people. I think they had underlying conditions and they just said it was COVID also. But heart disease, COPD, a lot of overweight, obesity. So if someone if someone has cancer or diabetes, they can go through Poverello and get their needs to also fill out some paperwork and get that done there.
Yeah, so we just need proof of residency, and that's all that is. It doesn't matter where you live, but we need proof of residency, proof of income, the letter from your doctor saying that you are living with a chronic illness, what it is, and then blood work has to match it. So that's the only requirement, that you show your blood work once a year, because a lot of our funders require us to show a health outcome. Is the person living better now that they're receiving services than before? So the day of people giving money just to give money is over. You have to show demonstration of that you're doing good. Or if you're not, what are you going to do to make changes so it happens?
So if you're not HIV positive, you have to show proof of residency, which could be a light bill, your FPL bill or something similar.
Yeah.
And then you said, what else do they need? Because that was important.
Income, your income. So it's 150% of federal poverty level. So it's for a person of one, that's about $1,900 a month. So if you're under that, the letter from your doctor that you're living with a chronic illness, stating what it is, and then lab work to back it up.
All right. It's almost like getting that handicap sticker in the car. You got to just go through the motion, and once you get it, you got it, and just keep updated. What do you like most? Because where did you come up with the hunger fighters on your card? I loved that with the Superman diamond there. That's exceptional. For people who don't know it, it's a Superman look with red and blue, and it says Poverello Hunger Fighters. I think that's so novel. Who came up with that?
So that was a marketing team of volunteers that we had about 6-7 years ago. They came up with that. And I always say, who are we fighting? Who are we fighting? I'm good for a good fight, but who are we fighting? And what is this hunger? Because we're not about hunger, or food is medicine. So for my mind, it's a messaging here, but I get it in the sense of we're all in a fight and we want to stay healthy. And eating properly and eating correctly is a struggle. It's not a diet, it's a life change. So maybe that fight is internal, to make those life-changing decisions to commit to eating healthier. Because like you said, COVID, we learned through COVID, the healthier you are, most likely you're going to get through a lot of different illnesses or prevent different illnesses. And so we want client satisfaction. We want to make sure clients are happy and receiving the services. But more importantly, we want to prove to the insurance company that if you receive food from us, that we prevent you from going into the hospital. That's the goal, preventing sickness. Because we know the average cost for a hospital visit is over $4,000 a day.
Yeah.
And we can provide food for a whole year, less than $4,000 for one person. So if we're able to provide food for someone and prevent them from going in the hospital. That's our goal.
Now, you're in South Florida. You said from Jupiter, there's Poverello, from Jupiter all the way to Homestead. If somebody across the country, let's say in Washington or Utah or Kansas, is watching this show, how would they go about, they could get in touch with you, or how would they go about in their community the best way for someone who doesn't have the resources that we have? How is the best thing, what is the best way for them to get services through the health department, or what would you suggest?
So I would go on to Food is Medicine Coalition. Just Google that. Go to the website, Food is Medicine Coalition, and under the website, you'll see our agencies across the country, and just reach out to one of those agencies.
So it's Food is what is it called again?
Food is Medicine Coalition.
Food is Medicine Coalition. We should put that up on the screen also. Foodismedicinecoalition.org or .com?
.org.
.org. Foodismedicinecoalition.com. That's a great, so then anybody in the country would be able to find out where they could get assistance for food.
Exactly. And I would say we're in like 30 some states. So the other states, the smaller states that we're not in yet, reach out to your local health department.
Yeah.
The diabetes section or obesity section, supposedly there's a staff member in every single health department with obesity. And so if you get to that person, they should be able to help direct you to a place where you can get some type of assistance.
And you've been with Poverello. You're the manager, or the team manager of Live Well. But what do you like most about your position there? What do you find? You've been 40 years involved with HIV, so obviously your heart's there. But with where you are now, and we're on the record, what do you like the best about what you're doing?
So my job mostly is around quality manager there, also with the Live Well Center. When I do orientation with staff members, I said, if you're looking for a job to see your satisfaction right away, this is the best place to be, because you see your daily return every single day when you work with a client and how you can impact somebody and make change for someone. So they might come in, like I had a woman today with cancer coming in and is coming back, and she couldn't talk to anybody, and she's really not one of our clients yet. So I talked to her for a little bit, and I got her hooked up with Gilda's Club, and they work with cancer patients in South Florida. And so on the way out, she goes, I haven't been able to talk to anybody about this. You made me feel so safe here today talking. And it's a cheap way of getting your satisfaction. You work so hard sometimes, and it takes you years to see, well, I did good. But this you see every day. And so it's a privilege to work with our clients. And it's an honor. And it's reminded every day that I don't take this for granted, this work. And so that's right. And also my colleagues at the agency, but also more importantly, also is with other agencies working on the planning council, the player council, that really satisfies me too, working in the community.
Yeah, that's what it would be, is the thank yous from their heart, really meaning you helped me at a time in my life when I didn't know where to go or what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, foodismedicinecoalition.com. That's powerful.
OIG.
Oh, foodismedicinecoalition.org. And that's in 38 states, or for people around the country, they can check that out. Foodismedicinecoalition.org. And your information will post up again. But yes, there we have your information again. It's just, I think, a bittersweet time for us, for those of us who have been involved for a long time. It's difficult at times. You feel like you're spinning on that, the gerbil going around and around and around. But then every once in a while, it works out just okay, and you're okay again, and you just have to keep going forward.
Exactly. A lot of the calls that you get on, and with the new administration, people have a choice. I think you can either spin and be part of the spin world, or be the numb world and just numb and not pay attention what's going on. I choose to be in the middle. I try not to get in that spin world. And also, I try not to be numb. So it's hard to find that middle road right now. But
Yeah.
that's where I'm looking for that middle lane.
Yeah, without doing drugs yourself. Where's a good martini when you need it, right?
Exactly,
But
exactly.
how many people are employed with Poverello overall from the Jupiter down to Homestead with this whole big agency? It's huge.
Well, you would think that, but it really isn't. We are a staff less than 25,
Oh my heavens.
but we have about 100 volunteers. So we
Okay.
really could not do any of our services without our volunteers.
And the volunteers do the driving, they do a lot of do they pick people up or do they deliver food? Are they part of DoorDash?
We partner with DoorDash, but they help us prepare the food because each order we have to pack it. We have to pack it a certain way so DoorDash can accept it for a delivery.
Sure.
We also have a thrift store, and that helps us offset the cost. So they're part of that team.
Wow, this was an incredible interview tonight. This was wonderful. It took a little bit for us to get together and deal with this and the communication issue, but it certainly was an amazing time to be able to share. And what I would like you to do, we still have a few openings in May, and then we're going to stop taping the end of May, and they'll air through the summer. The airings will air, but we're a little backed up. But if you have anybody else who would like to be on and share maybe another area of Poverello or somebody else who would like to tell their story or doing something in our area, please don't hesitate to have them. You can send a link, the calendar link, or they can get in touch with me and I'll send them the calendar because we still have a couple of openings in May and we want to get as many people in as possible.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's been an honor. And please continue your work. Thank you for everything that you do for the community.
Well, I hope to meet you again personally and maybe take a run down there and see John and see you at some point.
Exactly.
So I want to thank my guest tonight, Brad Barnes from Poverello. Eat well, live well, feel well. And I'm Susan Mintz, the host of Positively Positive, and we encourage you to get tested and know your HIV status. We want to thank you for watching. So many of you have been so faithful in helping to make this program so worthwhile, so fulfilling, and reaching people one story at a time. You can follow me. I'm Richardo Jackson, Campbell Health Solutions, on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram. My website, SusanMintz.com, has all the interviews from last year and this year so far. So we're in great shape sharing information and we love doing it. And so thank you all again. And Susan Lee Mintz always says, I'll always be committed to love. That's my sign off. That's always me.
Thank you.
Committed to love. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.